Hello, everyone. Today we have with us Kavita. Kavita and her husband Jigar had co-founded Spicta, Spicta. Spicta is an oral care brand. Kavita is an alum of IIM Kozhikode and Jigar is an executive MBA and alum of IIM Bangalore. They have recently raised fund from 100x VC. So, Kavita, welcome to this podcast and thank you so much for giving time.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much.
So, Kavita, would you like to share something about Spicta for our audience?
Yeah, of course. Like you said, Spicta is a new age oral care brand. So I'll just talk about why we started Spicta, what was our reason, and what is the vision behind Spicta. So basically, the vision that we are seeing is that we want to disrupt the oral care category in India, and we see Spicta as one of the brands who is going to do that in the next few years. The background being that there is a lack of effective and good quality oral care products in India, and the oral hygiene as such in India is far behind versus global standards. So there are a lot many products available globally. There is a lot more awareness about oral hygiene globally, but that lacks in India, and that also shows in the oral hygiene. So like almost 90% of Indians have some or the other kind of oral health issues. So we thought that the reason behind this is because Indians do not have good quality and effective oral care products that solve for their problems. And that's why we wanted to build an oral care brand that gives a very refreshing and enjoyable and a very different experience to customers from their regular traditional oral care brands. And at the same time, it solves problems for consumers. It works for consumers, and it gives them a very holistic oral hygiene experience. So that was the thought behind starting the brand, and the vision that we are seeing for the brand.
This is very interesting, and I completely agree with you that oral care market in India is ready for a disruption, and we certainly need an Indian brand to come forward. By the way, at IIM Ahmedabad, we teach a case on PNG Colgate oral care segment. So I can see a Spicta case coming to classroom.
Hopefully.
Yes, we look forward to it.
That would be very great.
Yes, certainly. Why not? Okay. So my first question to you, Kavita, because we want to make this conversation about raising funds. Okay, so what kind of preparation did you and Jigar do to raise funds, in terms of pitch deck, in terms of, what all you need to do before you go to the investor? Would you like to share something on that?
Yeah. So we raised funds very early on in our journey. So we have 5 products right now in our portfolio, but when we started raising funds, we just had 2. So our first 2 products, which were the 2 toothpastes, those were the only products that we had. So at that point, so this becomes a pre-revenue kind of a stage where a company is basically trying to get funds purely on its vision. So, and what it is trying to do. We don't have numbers to discuss, we don't have metrics, nothing. So at this point, the only focus for both of us was to speak to investors and convince them about our vision, convince them that why is the oral care category up for disruption in India, what is the size of the category in India, what is the market potential, what is the scenario globally versus how is India lagging behind in this segment, what are some consumer insights, and then finally, what are we trying to do, how are we trying to solve for these problems, bridge these gaps, and build the next big startup in oral care. So that was the entire preparation. So be it our pitch deck, be it our emails or whatever, this was the standard communication line that we wanted to sell our vision. We wanted to convince them on our vision, because obviously you don't have any numbers or anything at this stage. So it's all about how convincing you put forth your idea about the brand.
But do you know, like usually investors say, do you have proof of concept? You had 2 products at the time, but you said you didn't have revenues per se. Yeah. So did some work go into that, which investors we should target, who will not ask for revenue, who will believe in our vision, or these are the investors who can experiment, with these kind of ideas?
Yeah. So, like you rightly said, so again, there are multiple investors who come in at multiple levels of your business or at various stages of your business in terms of revenue. So, what we did was we reached out to all of them. We knew for a fact that some of these investors are not going to invest in us at this stage because they're probably a Series A, Series B kind of a firm. But we, irrespective, we reached out to them, and most of this was via cold emailing. We had a few connects, we reached out to them through that, but majority of them were through cold emailing. We were ourselves were surprised to see the kind of response that we got, even from investors who typically don't invest at a pre-revenue stage. So they just wanted to have a chat, wanted to have a discussion about what we're trying to build, what are we doing, who are we, what is the vision behind the brand. And for us also, it was a good starting point because we got to understand what are their expectations. So what do they typically look at while investing in a brand in the oral care category? So is it revenue? Is it profitability at a unit economics level? Or is it distribution? Or is it like what exactly is it that they want to see? So that we could also at a gradually strategize internally as to what do we want to target from all of these. Like there are multiple things and everybody will look at different KPIs or different metrics. So what are those 2-3 metrics that we want to run behind and we want to do in our next stages of growth? At the same time, we also reached out to investors, angel investors, early stage funds who invest in companies at a pre-revenue stage. And like I said, right, when you are pitching to these investors, it's all about storytelling. They're not trying to see numbers or KPIs, metrics, nothing. The only two things that they're looking at is the founder's vision for the brand and the founder's execution abilities to do that, or to run the business. So of course storytelling also comes at a later stage, when you are going in your further rounds, but at that time you have a lot more to talk about. You have your numbers and you have your revenue and profitability and repeats and whatnot at that point. But at this point it's purely your vision and the conviction that you have in the business, the passion that the founders have in executing it, and of course how good would they be in putting their plans into action. So I mean, you talk big, you have great vision, but if you're not able to execute, it's not going to help in any way. So
This is great. This is great. You are saying that in pre-revenue stage, is the founder's vision, passion, conviction, how they feel about that idea can really influence the investors. But I'm just curious to understand, how would investor understand that this person can pull it off? This person can execute it. Is there any sense you got after meeting so many investors?
So I think there were a lot of things that they were trying to gauge, that what is our understanding of the market, what do we know about competition, what are the gaps that we are trying to bridge, what is our idea of the market potential, who are we comparing against, like what is the benchmark that we have for ourselves as a brand. Like if we are competing to, say, there is another D2C brand globally in this category, how are we comparing against them, and what are the learnings that we are taking from there and we are incorporating it in our business. At the same time, it also matters about what's our background. So I was from Flipkart, I had a background in personal care, so I knew the oral care category in and out. So I knew that what consumers want, or what are the channels that we want to what should be the GTM strategy, like what are the channels that we should go ahead with. Of course you may not be right all the time, that you will learn only as you go. But yeah, as a starting point, this was something which helped. On the other hand, Jigar was from a finance strategy background, so he had a strong understanding of strategy, finances, legal implications, operations. So it's all about that. So it's about, first of all, of course, your vision, your understanding of the category in which you have entered, your competition, be it in India or abroad, consumer insights. Have you done your level of primary research? What do you think are the gaps that are missing? further down, what are the segments that you are trying to target? Is it a premium brand? Is it a mass brand? Is it somewhere in between? And at the same time, who are the founders? What is their background? How well have they done something? Maybe not exactly, they wouldn't have done anything of this sort in the past, but do they have some kind of background that they will be able to bring in those insights into their current business?
So one is yours and Jigar's functional background. He being from finance strategy background, you being from Flipkart sales, distribution channel background. Do you think somewhere you coming from I am Kozhikode, he coming from I am Bangalore, this I am tag also helped in some way?
Maybe it did, but I mean, I wouldn't say that if somebody is not from an IIM, they should be bogged down by it, or they should think that, oh, okay, it's only the IITs and IIMs who get funding, the others don't, because that's definitely not true. So in our entire cohort of 100x, there were quite a few of them who were from an engineering college or from some other background, or maybe they might be from NIFT. And see, after a point, I mean, maybe if you're, say, 5-7 years of work experience, and post that you are starting out, maybe your college tag doesn't really come into picture at that point, because then people are just trying to see what you've done till now and then how you're going to put that into action. But of course, yeah, if you're just out of college, fresh out of college, and then starting out, it does make a difference of the kind of colleges that you've been to.
Yeah, that's interesting, because like you said, you sent out emails to so many investors.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that, since you come from IIM background, there is more inclination from investor side to give you a chance, at least hear your story. That's what I think. But I want to, it's a very trivial question though. How do you, when you said you sent emails to everybody, where do you get this data from? This is for my entrepreneurs who are in tier 2, tier 3 cities. They don't know. They will come and say, ma'am, how to contact VC? कहाँ पे है ये VC? कैसे contact करते हैं? I know it's very layman's question, but I would like you to address that.
No. So of course. I mean, I completely understand, because we would have also been in that same position a few years ago. That okay, कहाँ से start करना है? But see, ours was like LinkedIn pe gaye, we checked who is the partner of this particular VC, we sent him a mail. 90% of the time, the partner himself may not respond, but he would just forward it to somebody within the team, and someone or the other from the team will definitely respond. So that was our journey. That find the partner's email ID, send an email to him, and then it just gets circulated internally, and then somebody from the team reaches out.
Okay, so through LinkedIn. So how many investors did you pitch in front of? Like serious pitch that, okay, we are raising money.
Serious pitch at the first level would have been, I think, about maybe 10, 12.
Okay.
And I don't remember, I've lost track of that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And when they say no, or you don't hear back from them, how does it feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. we've just gotten used to it now. So yeah, it does. I mean, there are some investors from whom you have some expectation that, of course, like I told you, right? The investors who are investing at a later stage, you obviously know that what's their answer. They will obviously tell you that, nay, you are too early, we invest later on, you come when you have XYZ, and that's how that call is going to end. But a lot of times you do have an expectation that, okay, this person is probably okay. I mean, the firm or the investor himself invests at this level, and you do expect a reward from there. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen. So I think, I mean, at that point, it's you can't do anything. I mean, you can't just wait and keep cribbing about that. The best thing in that point we did was, okay, fine, this person said no, let's approach the next one, let's continue with what we are doing anyway. So I mean, that's a as founders, that's a little bit of a mental challenge that we face every time, because there's somebody, you're expecting something from there that doesn't happen. You have to just just keep that aside and then continue with your work and then keep doing the next thing. So that's yeah. So that was
Keep
something.
going forward.
Keep going. Yeah, yeah.
But what kind of feedback you used to get from investors, Kavita, about was the feedback on you and Jigar as founders? Was the feedback on what more expertise you need to acquire, or there was feedback on the product or something? What was the feedback from investors?
Luckily for us, our product feedbacks were very good. So, and be it customers or investors, the product feedback was something which worked in our favor all the time. So that was, I mean, I would say that was one of the main reasons why we ended up having a second call or a follow-up discussion, or the investors even responded that, okay, no, maybe not now, maybe after some time. The product was, I think, one of the reason why people started to get interest in what we were doing. Apart from that, the feedback, I would say, was more related to, again, one was of course related to revenue. Then maybe we can invest in you at a later stage. But yeah, overall the product was something which really worked for us. The category was also something which was growing and which was gaining a lot of interest from investors. So I think that the category that we selected, the research that we had done behind it as to what is the potential of this category in India, why are we selecting this category out of like the hundreds of other categories in personal care. Those were the things which actually got them interested in speaking with us and then continuing conversations with us.
But how openly an entrepreneur who is seeking funds from the investor can talk to the investors while pitching? Like, I mean, I'm just thinking, if I have to go and pitch, I will be so conscious about everything, that what I have to say, I have to measure my words, etc., etc. But how open that conversation is?
So, when anybody asks me this, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is a discussion with an investor is not a job interview. So they're not trying to test your fit in an organization, or they're not trying to check your domain knowledge. They're trying to simply judge two things: whether you and your team have the vision, they have the passion, and they have the execution ability. Those are the only 2-3 things that they are trying to look at. And it really helps to be, and it's so the entire conversation that goes, it's not a one-sided thing. It's not like a question kind of a thing. It's more of a discussion. So it's like, what are you trying to do? What are you doing now? What is your vision? How can we help? How can we work together? So at this point, it's very important that you are open in every possible way. So be it your metrics or be it your challenges. I mean, अगर नहीं हो रहा है तो नहीं हो रहा है. You have to tell them upfront कि okay, this is something which we want to do, but it's not working out. Because only then will they understand, how it's very important that they are comfortable with the founders. They are comfortable speaking to the founders, working with them, because an investor becomes a very important stakeholder in your business, and especially early stage investors are very important, because I mean, they are going to be one of the first few investors who are going to help you to grow. So it's really important that you are open and frank with them in every possible way, because only that leads to a healthy equation between both of you, and that's very important.
But one thing I have seen, Kavita, entrepreneurs ask that we don't know how much to dilute. When we are going for, let's say, 50 lakh rupees raise of fund or 20 lakh rupees raise of fund, we don't know, what should be the dilution. Should we give this for 2%, 5%, 10%? And in your case, which was pre-revenue, how did you decide? Will you be comfortable talking about it, or any kind of thing?
I think so. So Jigar comes from the finance background, so this is slightly more technical in that aspect, as to how to do the valuations and all of those things. So I think he was majorly handling that entire section of, and the technicalities of that. So that's a little more technical.
Okay.
Uh,
Pre-revenue valuation.
yeah. In fact, I mean, overall, also when you start measuring your valuations and the equity dilution and all of those things, there's a little bit of maths and finance and all of that involved, which needs a little more time in
No, I understand. I understand.
understanding and.
So, I understand that in the pitch deck, there should be information on, where the gap in India or abroad is, where the market is growing, right? And why do you need funds for, right? And what exactly is your vision, etc. Is there anything else people need to put in the pitch deck to sell their story, to convince the investor that this is worth pursuing?
So see, it's like I said, right? It's about storytelling and how you present your story. So there should be a kind of a format, or maybe I wouldn't say format, but a flow kind of a thing to your story. So what we did was, what is the problem? How are we going to solve that? What are we offering? How are we different from competition? If there was some initial traction in terms of, you've just started selling a few units and you've got feedback and all of that, so then you share those details. What is your vision? So where do you see the company in the next 6 months, 12 months, in terms of revenue, in terms of distribution, in terms of your go-to-market strategy? And finally, after all of this, why are you the right team to build this? So what's your background? What's your co-founder's background? If you have some key team members, what is their background? So I think it's the entire all of this needs to just come together and be in a very nice and seamless format when you are presenting. So of course, I am also saying this after multiple iterations. I wouldn't say that my first pitch deck had everything in this format. It was like all over the place, but you gradually learn and you gradually understand how it's supposed to be. So
Understand. Was there a time when an investor said, I will, give you funds, and you decided against it? Did that happen?
there was, yes, there was.
What
So
was the rationale to
So I
say,
think we were in a bit of dilemma at that point, because there was one who was giving us larger funds, and of course taking a higher equity from the company, versus there was another one who was, so our dilution was lesser, but the funds were also subsequently lesser. But at that point, what we realized is we need, so again, it completely depends on the business model and on how on how is the market scenario like at that point, in terms of competition or in terms of the challenges of that particular category. So for us, what we realized is the kind of funds that we were getting from investor two, they would be only sufficient for us to sustain for another couple of months, and then after that we would have to raise again. We wouldn't have much traction to show. So again, there would be multiple discussions that, oh, you've raised 3 months back, why are you coming again? So
yeah,
at that point, we realized that we wanted a longer runway. We wanted to be in a place where we don't have to raise funds probably for another, we have sufficient amount for another, which would last for another year and a half kind of a thing.
okay, that's interesting to know. That's interesting to know. Kavita, we'll have to end this interview because we are trying to keep it shorter format, but I'm also pretty sure that this is what a lot of entrepreneurs want to know, that what exactly should go in pitch deck, and thanks for sharing that. Is there any learning that you would like to share from your journey so far with the entrepreneurs out there? Anything?
I think it's just important to be keep going, to keep doing what you are doing. There will be lots of challenges. There will be lots of lows more than the highs, but you just need to keep learning from them and just keep going forward. And hopefully someday there will be something which will click, and things will just go for the better.
Thank you so much. For me, the biggest takeaway from your interview is that, your passion, and your conviction that you can pull it off, that really matters, especially in pre-revenue stage when you are raising fund. Thank you so much, Kavita. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.